Hi, everyone, and welcome to Book Club with Bay. I am Bay, and this is Bay. Say hi, Bay.
Hi, Bay.
And today we were talking about Blind Tiger, the second book in the Wildcat series, which is the spin-off to the Shifter series by Rachel Vincent.
Yes. And you actually read the correct book this week. High five for you.
I did. I know. Gold star. I did see that this is not unrelated to this book, but it is a book club thing. When I was logging on to this YouTube account, something fun that popped up was a DNF review for Midnight Sun.
Mm-hmm.
So like an angry review of Midnight Sun, and I was like, ooh.
Well,
I didn't watch honestly, it, obviously.
I am seriously looking forward to reading it, and then probably between me finishing it and before us book clubbing it, I will probably then delve into a bunch of the reviews that I've seen that I'm just like, nope, must resist.
Yeah, I haven't looked at anything. I've stuck to our thing of like going into it as blind as possible, because I like that idea of not knowing, you know.
Yeah. Because we know how it ends. Okay, we know the major plot points that will correlate with Twilight, but we're inside someone else's head, and by being in his head, we're in everyone's head. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to being in everybody's head.
Yeah, like I want to know. I want to know what's going to happen, and also I want to know why the book is so fucking long.
I know.
I would like what the fuck?
Because I haven't I've read the leaked chapters, and it's been like a decade since I've read them. Maybe a bit less. I can't remember. I read them when they first got leaked. So however long ago that was. And I do know that some of the scenes that are from Bella's perspective that are literally like a paragraph or, a couple pages are a lot longer. Like there's a scene where she's reading in the backyard and falls asleep for a bit. And then she's like, oh crap, and wakes up and goes to eat dinner. Edward's sitting there watching her through that whole thing. And it's a little bit creepy. It's a little bit creepy because he's just sitting there watching her read. And then we're also with him while he's watching her sleep for months.
Right.
So I know that will pad the book, but I still don't quite know how it gets to more than double the length.
It's longer than Breaking Dawn, which...
And Breaking Dawn had a lot of plot twists, a lot of different plots that ended partway through, and there were multiple things happening in Breaking Dawn. Whereas Twilight was, they meet, he ignores her, he comes back, he can't resist her, he's a vampire, oh no, he wants to eat her, and then James comes.
Right.
That's Twilight. There's not plot there.
Yeah.
Well, there's a plot, but there's a plot. One.
Yeah, and so so I don't know if it's just like she added scenes. I don't know who these they people are. Like she added scenes to it, or if it's just like I don't know.
We'll see. We'll know within the next week.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm curious though, but also I'm a little like it's so long.
It is so long. I really hope he's a good narrator.
Yeah, I do. God, if this narrator's bad, that's going to be so painful.
I mean, you know what? Honestly, I'm pretty sure that we're going to get, because male narrators, they suck at female voices. They always do this really weird high-pitched thing that is really uncomfortable. But it's fine because you're a man trying to do a girl's voice, and I get it. So at least we're going to have clear distinctions, I feel, between
others at it. But I mean, it just kind of...
Yeah, I feel like we're going to have clear distinctions between the male and female voices. And I'm 99.9% sure we're not going to have to hear Bella again. So,
hopefully the male voices won't be higher than the female voices this time. And also, I will say this: I don't blame you for never having read past the second book, because the second book's painful, and the second book puts you off. You know, I get it.
What's this?
I'm replying to a Twitch chat.
Oh, I don't have Twitch open. I should probably do that. Hey. But this book.
For this book.
Yeah, Midnight Sun will be next week, I'm assuming.
Should be.
We'll see how we go.
This is the most casual streaming thing ever.
Yeah, we don't really have much of a format type thing happening. It's just, oh wait, well we do ratings.
Yeah, we do ratings.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So ratings for this book. Food ratings.
Oh. I didn't think of a food. A kind of good packet soft shell taco. Like, it's not the best book, but it's a nice. It's still a nice comforting read, because we're in a world we know, but it's kind of like it's got a little bit of spice to it, because Robin's, a bit more edgy than, like, she's not being a whiny bitch for the sake of being a whiny bitch like Faith. So it's like, and sorry, I also did like shouldn't Faith have more solidarity in the girls with I can't remember the exact words, but like with random Y's in their name, referencing Abby, Faith, and Robin. And I'm like, at least she's owning the Y's. I can forgive the Y's a little bit more now.
But can we for a moment discuss this?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And now, I was dragged because Ed Indro is currently reading Livescraft, and he was like, "What the fuck is with Ryder?" And I was like, "Look, it's a nice game. There's the only bad thing he had to say about it, but that's not the point. Okay. However, at least that's how you spell it.
That is how you spell it. Like, that's how you spell the name Ryder.
Like, it's not like when you write a book, you're pulling like, unless you're pulling like real people and their birth certificates, and you can't do anything about it. No. You've done this to us.
You chose the spelling. It's like, you can't name your kid something weird and then be like, why you named so weird? And that's what your characters are. Like, I don't know why she added all the Y's and did I feel like this is a lot more common in like urban fantasies. They try and edge up the names a bit.
Well, I think this is something that's kind of annoying about. I'm just gonna go with books because I consume more books than I do movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
and I notice it more in books, but authors will give characters like dumb little hurdles that just like the author gave the character for like the character to be upset about, like their name, like, oh, it's Faith with a Y, and it's like, she doesn't have to be upset about it. You did this to us. Like, Rachel, you're the reason why we have to sit here and be upset about it. Like, it's stuff like that. And I don't know why, it really annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, like, I mean, like in Twilight, she could have just named Bella Bella.
I think, but like Bella is a normal short.
Yeah. No, I know, but like, because Bella no one calls her Isabella after she spends the first book sulking every time someone calls her Isabella. Like, not even her dad.
Yeah.
Like, they could have, like, there was no reason for her to be Isabella other than to give her something to be like, no, I'm not a girly girl. I want to be Bella, not Isabella.
I mean, a far more natural, yeah, you're right, because a far more natural way to handle that situation is just for her to be like every other normal person and go, actually, I go by Bella.
Yeah.
And then everyone goes, oh, okay, cool. And that's it. Like in
Vampire Academy, Lissa's name. Like, Lissa preferred to go by Lissa as opposed to Vasilissa and stuff. Like, I feel like it fits there. Like, she's got a real name because she's a freaking princess. But she doesn't want to, she's not a hoity-toity royal. And she's like, no, I'd prefer to be a bit more chill, please. I don't want to be called Vasilissa every day.
Right.
And I think it's handled fine.
Well, yeah, because she doesn't get upset about it. Because most
Rose
people
gets more annoyed about it.
Like, most people, like, the first time you meet them, if, like, for example, at a school, let's say, when their full name is written out for a teacher and they read out their first name and, like, the teacher pronounces it wrong or something like that, usually they'll be like, is this it? Is this what you want to be called? And then you go, actually, I go by my middle name. Or if your name's like Alexandria, you'll say something like, oh, I go by Alex. And they'll be like, oh, okay. Or like, oh, I pronounce it like this. And they go, oh, okay. Yeah. And then after that, if somebody intentionally like uses the wrong name or is intentionally pronouncing your name wrong or something like that, then yeah, if you're irritated, I'm 100% with you. I'm totally with you. My name's Teresa.
But when they're first meeting you,
get it.
Yeah. And a lot of schools as well. Like, there was a girl that I went to school with, and she would get annoyed every time someone called her a technical name because she had a Vietnamese name, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But like first name, but her middle name was Natasha, and that's what she went by. And it even had on her school enrollment forms, like there was name, preferred name. So it would have, I can't even remember what it was. It was something stupid. Her first name. And then under preferred name, it would have Natasha, and the role would have whatever, air quotes, Natasha, last name.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, some teachers would still call the role by her actual first name, and she'd be like, excuse you, no. My first name is written right there. Oh, my preferred name is written right there. Can we do a thing? Like, you know how to do this. You've been doing this with my brother, who was 2 years older than us, for like 4 years by this point. You know how to read the role.
Yeah.
Like, so she would get frustrated with that, and I get that. But also, if it wasn't like that on the roll, then I think she would have been a little bit more understanding of it.
Yeah. But like I said, that's I think it's a context thing. So it's kind of just one of those situations, I think, when authors are writing a book, it's one of those things that like pulls you out of it when characters are just getting upset about things that don't make sense. Because an author has written them to do that. Like, they've put them in a situation where it's like, well, her name didn't have to be written like that. You did that.
And I don't mind it as much as well, like when it plays a role, again, like in Vampire Academy, like, the situation, like if Lissa ever gets referred to by her full name, she's it's because she's talking to someone important, or it's in her capacity as a princess or later on the queen. So like you get a feel for the formality of the situation based on what Lissa is being called. But there's no reason for Faith to have to bring up multiple times, my name has a Y in it. It's spelled different.
Yeah, because it would have been one thing if she had just spelled it that way and fucking left it.
Yeah, we didn't have to bring it up.
Also, you didn't have to spell Robin's name with a Y.
Yeah. I mean, like, that said, though, the only reference Robin makes to the Y in her name is, like, you know, you should have more solidarity than the girls that have random Ys in them club. Like, I thought we were a team.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just more I think I just got annoyed when I saw it because the fake with a Y was so weird. And then also the spelling of Casey.
Casey deserved a Y, and she left the Y out.
I know. Where are Casey's Ys? She gave them all to Faith.
and I'm sorry, but Abby, to me, looks weird with a Y. I'm used to Abby being ABBIE. I've known multiple Abbies, and they're all IE.
I've seen it both ways. Like Abby to me,
I've seen it both ways, but I've seen it both ways as well. I feel like it just looks a bit lopsided.
In Blackwoods, we spelled it with a Y.
I like it with an IE.
It might be an American thing.
It could be.
Because that wasn't one of the ones where I was like, that's random. I was just like, yeah, that's how you spell that. But
it could be. I mean, there are definite naming distinctions between, because I guess Australia is also a mix of British and American culture. But like, for example, like, we'll say Prince William and Kate's youngest kid is Louis, and it took so long for a lot of Americans to accept that his name is not Louis. It's Louis, because that is how you pronounce that spelling of that name in not America. Louis is Lewis.
Yeah.
And Louis is Louis.
Yeah. Is that a thing?
In America, it's pronounced Louis.
You can spell Louis that way here?
Yes. Yeah, like St. Louis.
Oh yeah. That didn't click.
But yeah, I've seen many freaking arguments. Like I saw like Twitter rumbles happening over the pronunciation of this kid's name, and I'm like, but it's Louis. You're wrong. Stop arguing a point you're wrong on.
I just don't care. As an American, it's my duty to not care about the monarchy.
I'm more invested in the monarchy because the Queen is my head of state.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to care. We did a lot of things not to care. I'm not allowed to give a shit. There's a reason why they're in Canada and not here right now. The two that defected.
I like it. I kind of like having the Queen as our head of state. She's badass. She's so funny. And her husband is the funniest freaking person on the planet, I swear. Okay, I'm done now. I'm sorry.
That's such a hard, it's funny though, because it's such a hard.
I don't ever want to become a republic. I don't ever want to become a republic. I'm fine. I'm fine with the Queen being our head of state. It's perfectly fine. And we won't have to put up with Charles for too long, because, he's like in his 70s. He old as fuck, so it's fine. Let's talk about the book.
Okay, yeah, right.
We've only done my food rating. We haven't done your food rating yet.
Oh, right. Shit. Okay.
Maggie's back. Hi, Maggie.
Maggie.
I haven't seen you in... It's been a while. It's been a long while. Have you seen Maggie recently?
Not here.
No. Well, he's back. He's
That-
not dead.
I know, he's not dead. He's officially resurrected.
Huzzah!
Huzzah.
Yeah, whenever
I'm
you're
gonna-
not in chat, you're dead, Maggie.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with you know what? I'm not gonna play with a knife. That's what I'm not gonna do.
Yeah, we don't play. Find something else to fidget with. I'm currently fidgeting with the gel eye mask.
I'm gonna stop fidgeting with a pocket knife. I'm gonna go with like middle tier ice cream. Like, you know how like you can, for us it's Haagen-Dazs is like really good ice cream.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, okay. So, but like below that. So like it's still ice cream and you're still happy about it.
But it doesn't have like that really like oily texture of like really bad ice cream.
Mm.
Fair.
Yeah. So like it's not yeah, so it's not bad ice cream, but it's not like, ooh, you know.
You'll have it in a pinch.
Yeah. Yeah, like it'll do.
Yeah. And do we stand or not stand? I feel like I stand.
I think I stand. I'm gonna go with the light stand.
I will say though, there's something that I'm really disappointed about, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And I feel like I'm whelmed.
I'm whelmed.
Like it didn't make me angry, but didn't really get like fuck yes either.
Yeah.
And I wasn't bored. So I feel like I'm whelmed.
Yeah, I'm whelmed.
Characters
Indeed. So Robin.
Robin, we met her last book. Well, we briefly met her in the short story, but she was a key player in the last book. She was Abby's college roommate who got scratch-doodled on a hunting trip, camping trip rather. And she is the reason that she's the reason for the plot of the last book, effectively. And Abby and Jace are exiled because Abby was protecting her. And she is astray, and so she's literally, to date, the first female werecat whose motivation I'm like, I'm not like you're being a dum-dum. I mean, Abby, I wasn't too much either because, like, I got, like, you know, a lot of her motivation in terms of wanting to go to college and stuff was like, you know, she went through some freaking trauma and needed some space.
Also, her reasoning for protecting Robin the way that she did and, like, why she felt like she had to do it incrementally and all of that stuff, all of that made sense and it was all chill. And I was like...
Yeah. But like her reluctance, well, not so much reluctance, but more just outright like horror at the concept of the role she is expected to play, is far more understandable and sympathetic than Faith's.
Yeah.
Because Robin was like, you know, raised in a we are women hear us roar.
You know, I don't even think
run the world girls, Beyonce song world, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you need to even be raised like that though to feel that way. You know, because I think even if you're not, it's still just like a jarring thing to be like, right, so now that you're one of us,
you need to get married and start procreating ASAP.
We would like access to your womb, please. And you're like, my womb? And it's like, yeah, your womb. And it's like, huh? Yes, you need to get married to we'll do a lineup for you for one of these specific people, and your womb is now free reign. Like,
does the female werecat count as a cat girl. I guess technically. Although I feel like dressing up as Catgirl for Halloween would be a little bit too on the nose. That's just how I feel.
Like, I don't know.
Maggie, you're asking the tough questions.
You are asking the tough questions, Maggie.
Other main character is Titus. Okay, I don't know what their dad's name is. Maybe we'll find out next book, because his brother is the main guy in the next book. Maybe not. We'll see. But their mother has a normal name. It is Penelope. You know, like it's still like it's a rich name. You know, you don't mean like generally if you hear of a Penelope, they're generally wealthy. You know, but they named their kids Titus, Titus, and Justice, Justus. Is it US?
We have to rhyme.
But Titus and Justice. And I get that their last name is Alexander, which indicates that, they could be Greek heritage. I don't know. But did we have to go like ancient Greek on the naming?
Also,
I feel like that was a bit much.
I'm still like, isn't everybody supposed to be South American? I'm still stuck on that.
Oh, well, in terms of the Titus and Justice thing, like they're strays, it's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, no, the only pride cats that we get any hint of South American from, I guess, would be the DeCarlos.
Yeah, because everybody should be, but they're not. It's so confusing.
Because their names are all Hispanic in nature, like even their first names.
Yeah.
Or at least to an extent, or some of their first names anyway. But yeah, like Abby is ginger green-eyed. Faith is green-eyed. And I don't know how
We're descended from South America.
Yeah, and there's been no stray
we're not allowed to
in their
not allowed to breed outside of our little cat cult. But we're from
they didn't even know that cats could breed with humans until partway through the original series.
How did you not figure that out if you all have like red hair?
Yeah, like how did Abby and half of her family end up as redheads with green eyes?
Like,
if you're supposed to be Latin American.
Honestly, I think she just didn't think of that.
I don't think she thought about it either, but this is why when you establish a law in your world, like when I say law, I mean it like LORE. When you establish your world's law, you need to take these into considerations with your characters' appearances. You know, like if you're going to have a supernatural species that for all of history believed that they could only breed with each other, and when the concept of a stray is so stigmatized that no tabby in her right mind would ever consider breeding with one, maybe take a look at what your characters should look like.
Yeah.
If they're from a specific region of the world.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Like, with a lot of werewolf lore, some you can have natural born wolves, but generally a lot of werewolf lore with natural born wolves, often it's still like it's still only the men are wolves, so you can breed with a human woman, and so, you know, or you scratch or bite and infections happen and bam, you have a new wolf. So like with werewolf lore and everything, it's very normal and somewhat expected to have multiple races within your werewolf culture. But in this one, aside from strays, everybody should be looking like they're from South America. But Rachel Vincent didn't think of that. So here we are with a very confusing law. You're back.
I'm back.
Excellent. We like that. I was just saying, like, with most werewolf stuff, like, you expect different races. Like, even where you can have, even in the laws where you can have natural born wolves, it's still expected to have different races. Even within the natural born ones, because, you know, scratchadoodles happen and you can still breed, or only the boys are wolves. So you breed with a human woman to get your son. But
yeah, but when you create like a situation where, you know, like we said, you have a society that will only breed, like, also we mentioned like the interbreeding issue. Like, unless the base population was big enough, because that could be the case.
Yeah, I feel like the South, they very well could be, because like because even now within this world, the South American cats are a lot less civilized, and they're constantly, like, you know, taking over each other's territory. Yes. We're just going to gloss over that issue for now, though. But they, you know, alphas are constantly being killed and replaced and stuff. So I imagine that, you know, the sons would get killed, but if there's any daughters already born, they'll be protected because they're daughters. But that guy's probably still going to want to have his own daughter. So I imagine that the South American tabbies probably are having 2 to 3 daughters. Like, they're probably popping them out from like 15, 16 to menopause. So they're probably having, So when the northern cat, like when the cats migrated north up to North America, there's probably a big enough base population to spread. Because then Canada also have their own ones. They're just not part of, you know, our, like, the main books territorial council. And then I feel like they're also in Europe. I feel like some of them moved to Europe.
Yeah.
So all I can guess is that Toms are flying in from all over the world and swapping things to, I guess, try and introduce new blood, for lack of a better term. I don't know. Okay, it's a very complicated situation. I
feel like by placing so many societal, like, I get that that's basically the plot, but the plot creates so many issues.
Like, all it would have taken as well is for, if they had made it so actually, like, it was more like the male to female male ratio has been getting bigger over a period of time. So there used to be like a relatively 50-50 split, but now it's this, and that was a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have probably like made it so a lot of our questions never needed to be asked.
Yeah, probably.
Because also then there probably would have been more tabbies banging strays throughout history, introducing, you know, lighter skin and hair color.
Yeah.
But
yeah, probably.
But Rachel didn't think of this. So we're left questioning. But yeah, Titus. It does mention in this book, because I asked you last time and you weren't sure. Titus is a billionaire. his parents died when he was 25 or something.
Yep.
He has a
Yeah,
younger
something
brother.
like that.
Yep. And I think that was about 4 years before this book. So he's now 29.
Yeah.
He runs his father's multi-billion-dollar corporation. He is CEO. He's also trying to get the Mississippi Free Zone become an official Pride territory thing, made
Honestly,
up of strays. And
yeah,
he's
like,
hosting Jason and Abby in their exile.
like I knew that he was a CEO or whatever. But like I said to you last time, my reading comprehension is so much worse for like reading. I've always been this way, where like actually reading something, I'm all aboard the struggle bus all the time. So I do much better listening. So I didn't really catch like the billionaire part the first time. I just caught the like thing.
Yeah. One thing that does confuse me though, I don't know if this is because he's had to relocate here since Strain, but I doubt it based on the fact that it sounds like his family have always lived in that house. But I have a few issues. One, I don't see the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company living in the middle of Mississippi.
What? That's realistic.
And two, I don't see the multi-billion-dollar, like, let's just say he does live in Mississippi. Okay, we'll suspend reality for that. The CEO, like the billionaire CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech industry company thing, does not live on a mere 20 acres in a mere 7-bedroom house.
But also, like,
am I wrong?
No, but I do just want to real quick. These books went from like, or like, because the last book was, while it was romancy, was very much in line with like what we're used to.
Yes.
And then this book went, you know, total romance town. He's a billionaire.
Well,
and we're gonna fuck it.
Okay, we'll get to the dedication because you did like the dedication, Ryan. And then I'll explain why we're going to the dedication immediately after you said that. The dedication of this book is to Jennifer Lynn Barnes, because this whole thing was your idea. Now, when you go to the back of the book, because I read the acknowledgements, it's like, thanks first and foremost to my husband, who is like, totes awesome, whatever. I love you. Thanks to Critique Partner. And thanks to Jennifer Lynn Barnes, who said, you should write a billionaire werecat. He could be the shifted Batman. So Jennifer Lynn Barnes is who we have to thank for the billionaire plot.
Thank you.
I don't know who Jennifer Lynn Barnes is. I don't feel bad saying her full name though, because it is mentioned multiple times. Like it's written twice in the book, the dedication and the acknowledgements. So,
speaking of dedications and acknowledgements, right now, because we're getting Blackwood's The Outcast of Asmar ready, and so we're currently putting everything together, getting it ready to like print and to get proofs of it and stuff, and we still haven't figured out the dedication yet. So right now, the dedication, like the placeholder dedication, says for us to nothing and no one, because we haven't bred or reproduced, or like because we haven't married or reproduced. Because every single dedication is always like to my kids, to my husband, like because we kept going through books to try to get inspiration, but it was just always like to my husband, to my children, and it's like, fuck. Like, I need to get married and have kids just so I can have somebody to dedicate books to.
Like, I mean, like, Like, it's one of those things where it'd be funny if you did that, but then if someone read that, like, but if someone outside of the joke read that, they'd be like, what the actual fuck? So well, if it was like, to each other, because without you, this wouldn't have been possible.
And then, well, you know, that could actually work. And then there's also
I know, but don't dedicate a book to each other.
That's true. And there are other ones that are like, oh, to my sister, to my brother. And we're like, we're only children. I don't have enough family. Dedicated to an animal you saw at Disney once.
To our parents who gave us no siblings that we could dedicate our book to. Thanks a lot. I don't know.
But what do I do if I keep writing books and I run out of people?
Dedicated to Jinx and oh crap, what's that cat's name? Cassie.
You know what? We might.
Yeah. Jinx and Cassie.
Jinx and Cassie. Because who the fuck else?
Maggie says dedicated to an animal you saw in the zoo once.
I don't know who I'm gonna dedicate. I think I might just dedicate Elder to my parents because I don't. I mean,
who else?
The first two were dedicated.
My list is very short.
The first two were dedicated to you and to Addie. So,
good job.
Like, yeah, that's all I got. Like to note, because we're not married and we haven't bred yet. Like, it's just, I have no people.
You could do like a general, like, out into the world to all the authors that have done an inspiration to you.
Yeah, I've noticed that, like,
with better phrasing.
I've noticed that like when you start reading authors that have written a lot of books, slowly the dedications just start to deteriorate over time. Dedicate Asmar to Rosalie and Elder to Claire. Make it a loop. But just keep dedicating like the books to different characters.
Yeah, like why not? But okay, anyway. Yeah, no, it's you'll work it out. I'm sure you'll work it out.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Honestly, at the rate that I'm writing this book, I will probably be married and have 5 kids by the time it comes out anyway, so it'll be fine.
Friggin', who would have thought that a dedication would be so difficult? Like, who do I dedicate my book to? Damn it!
Why is it such a? How did that become such a standard thing?
I don't know. Yeah, can you go dedicationless, or is that?
I don't know, because now it feels weird.
Is that a massive faux pas?
Okay, can we not wait so long for Elder? I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, okay? I swear.
We'll see. You can't. You know what? Would you rather take a while? Would you rather her take a while and get it right, or rush it and release a steaming pile of shit?
There's that.
Perfection takes time, people.
And while you're waiting,
which is why your parents waited so long to have you, because perfection takes time.
Aww, gross.
I was waiting for that. I was thinking it as I said it. I was like, nah, this is too much. It's too much. Okay, yeah, so we got Titus, he's a billionaire CEO, straight alpha guy harboring Jason Abbey. We have Drew.
Yeah.
Who is his child, like I guess teenage high school best friend or college best friend, something. They've been friends for a while. Who is also a stray, and he is his second in command. And the rest, I think we can just go. Like, they're not developed enough as characters to warrant stuff.
Yeah,
so we'll just mention them as we get to them.
Novels. The two main characters are characters and nobody else is.
Well, yeah, but like you go into expect, like it's fine. It's fine. I kind of don't feel like I need to know Spencer's life story.
Yeah.
I am curious about Knox's, but Spencer, I'm fine not knowing.
Yeah, by the way, that's not a complaint. That is like genuinely a function of romance novels. Nobody matters. But
yeah, like, I mean, if there was more, like, if this was more like Shifters, I would be like, thanks for writing a whole bunch of two-dimensional freaking supporting cast, Rachel, but it's fine because of the genre.
Yeah, like it's normal for the genre, so it's chill. It's chill. I'm chill. It's just a thing.
Yeah. So at the end of last book, Robin accepted a plea deal, meaning that she would get better because she killed a bunch of people last book. It's fine. She went a little bit murderous on the people that were hunting Shifters. She killed 4 of them. So now she's had to promise to be a good girl for a bit until she got better.
Yeah.
And it is now 2 months later. And she is still being held captive, for lack of a better term, in the DiCarlo's house. I feel like the DiCarlos took her in because they don't have it. Like, she went there because they're the tabulous pride. And I'm still mad at Rachel. Like, I do not forgive her for not giving one of the random tabbies in this universe, like one of the spare tabbies to the DiCarlos. It would have been nice if she'd hooked one of their sons up with one of them.
I agree.
Because they deserve it. They were our friends. But she fucked them over. But yeah, so Dr. Carver's rocked up to take more blood because they're like, why did you survive when girls don't survive being scratch-doodled? And they're also curious to know if stray werecats, like female strays, can breed.
So my
not
thing
really
is also
testing that.
like,
yeah.
How do they know that
Know
stray
what?
females don't survive?
Guessing because they've never ever seen or found or heard of one.
But like,
and all the females that they found with scratch fever do die.
But like, the amount of territory that they actually patrol of their territory,
I know, right?
Is so teeny tiny that like I feel like you could have 10 prides within a pride territory and they wouldn't fucking know about it.
I know, like, I will say within this book, like, Titus's is like the most, like, the one that I look at the most and go, yeah, no, that actually sounds like it could work, because his pride is like, his territory is literally just Mississippi.
Right.
Mississippi free zone. It's just the state, the state of Mississippi, and he has like double the amount of enforcers as any other pride. Like, he's got 12. So like, Faith, we booked. I don't know if it was in the last book or the previous book or the last book of the original series.
It was the last book of the original series.
Yeah. Faith's pride is like most of Texas, except for that part that isn't covered for some reason. I don't know. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's not a free zone. It's not a territory. Who knows what the fuck that
I'll
is?
look it up.
And they have 6. Usually at most are about 6 enforcers to patrol their entire territory and make sure no strays get in. And I don't see how that's possible.
Yeah. So the South Central Pride.
Yeah, is that big blue thing. And that has 6 enforcers.
Like
the Southeast Pride, I can kind of get because, like they've only got, most of their boundaries coastal.
But like, how would any of you stop anything?
Like you would need like 300 minimum enforcers to try and have a reasonable chance of patrolling just the border of the South Central Pride.
So, like, this map makes no sense.
I still don't know what the hell this is though. Like the in between, like that little bit of, is that Texas?
Arizona.
Is that Arizona?
We're below the free zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't know what that is.
Like, is that part of, like, does a Mexican Pride have territory that goes into the US, or is that like disputed land? So they're just like, you know what? Let's just not at all.
I don't know, but it's weird.
I just feel like they could have just extended the free zone down to the border.
Yeah, I don't get it. And also,
but
why does the New England Pride go into Canada? Oh, no, it doesn't. Well, part of it does. And part of the Northwest Pride goes into Canada, too.
It does, doesn't it?
I'm confused.
Like, but the Pride within this, like, also, like, yeah, because the South Central Pride, you don't have to just worry about the 2 free zones on either side of it. You also have to worry about Mexico. Like, 6 enforcers is not enough.
But apparently it is. Like, you wouldn't know jack shit. Like, none of you would. If you all... And also, it's 6 enforcers, but is that, like, the whole Pride? Like, this is another issue with, like...
No, there's about 30 toms in the Pride. There's about 30 toms in the Pride.
What the fuck are the rest of you doing?
Their day jobs, like Dr. Carver's in ME. He's not an enforcer.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
Some of them are going to college, like the younger ones. They're off at college. I imagine some of them are probably like lawyers and stuff. Like Michael, he's not an enforcer, he's a lawyer. But they get called in for Pride business sometimes, I guess. But I guess, yeah, they just go out and live the bachelor lifestyle for the most part.
See, because the way that, like, Mercy Thompson does, like, the packs makes more sense, where everybody has to be able to do shit.
Yeah, it's like, look, you go do your job and stuff, but if we call you, then you're needed.
Yeah, like, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so the Mississippi Free Zone does cover a little bit more than Mississippi. It goes a little bit north into Tennessee, a little bit, like, a little bottom corner of Louisiana from the looks of it, But it's mostly just, it's 90% Mississippi.
Yeah.
And, like, that was the little free zone. And I feel like, yeah, that is a much more reasonable territory size for the number of things that they have.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah, so that's right. Yeah, we're talking about the plot now, though. So Robin's desperate to get the frick out of the house because she's, she feels like every time she makes progress, they move the goalposts a little bit further back, and then move a little bit further back, which they probably are. The only one she doesn't like, hate the mere sight of is Dr. Carver, because who can hate Dr. Carver? He's a sweetie. And she's pouting. The counselor coming in for a chitty chat with Titus, who is hoping to get his pride recognized as a pride. And they bump into each other, and he's like, wow, how do you do, miss? And she's like, well, how do you do to you too? And he's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm a straight bitch. And he's like, well, that's nice. I'm a straight king. But I want to do a thing now. And then he gets escorted to the bathroom because how dare he talk to the tabby? And she eats, and because they're too busy worrying about him, so they leave the door unguarded. And then she goes and hides in his boot, or trunk, rather, because we call them boots here.
Yeah.
And now we're on Titus's head, because these
Yep.
books alternate between the two characters' heads. And he's like, I would like to be a pride, please. And they're like, I don't think you should be a pride because you're a stray and your pride is strays. And he's like, but I would very much like to be a pride, please. And Faye's like, yes, let's let him be a pride, please. And they're like, no. And then he finally gets a we'll get back to you, and he leaves.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how that went, Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah. He's pretty much just like, can I please? And they're like, no. He's like, okay.
Oh, well, then he actually kind of like leaves with like a big, fuck you, I'm going to be a pride anyway, as he's walking out, because, you know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's
he
like,
went
we're
off
in the free
for a
zone, you
minute there.
can't stop us, motherfucker. And they're like, I mean,
Yeah. Oh, also, before Robin decides to jump into his car, she overhears a conversation, like pre-meeting, where like the T'Challa's like, well, I'm hoping that you'll take to Teddy, which is like their one, and then Ed Taylor, whose son Abby was engaged to, he was like, but Brian would make a fine alpha too. And then Faith's like, does she even like any of them? And Robin takes that to mean like Faith's trying to like get me pregnant. Whereas like I read that as well, being like Faith just like, I think you're counting your chickens before they hatch type sentence, not a let's knock her up sentence. But Robin took it that way because plot, I guess.
well, I think it's also like we know that because we know Faith. But I mean, you know, if you don't know, then and you're just listening to people talk about like,
yeah, like because this is the conversation. Donna and I are hoping she takes to Teddy. They'd make a good match. He's interested, and since she arrived, he's developed a lot of potential. And then someone else is like, he's too young. Teddy has too little experience. And then someone else was like, the circumstance makes the alpha. And then Faith's response is, does she like him? And Robin just goes, ugh! Faith, you're supposed to be protecting my womb.
Yeah, her being freaked out by that makes sense, though, in the context of the situation.
Yeah. Oh, here's the exact sentence, because then, shouldn't she at least be bound by some sense of loyalty to a fellow member of the girls' names containing extraneous Wise Club?
I do enjoy that sentence.
Yeah, so I did like that. At least Rachel Vincent was like, yeah, no, I know I add a lot of Wise to names that don't need them. Okay, I get it. It's fine. I do like that she put that in there. But yeah, so then Titus, like seriously, I can't even take him seriously just purely because of his name.
Honestly, Titus is kind of a dog name.
It's a perfectly fine name for your dog. It's a perfectly fine name but like I imagine it would belong to like a Rottweiler or something, like, you know,
like a pit bull,
a big mean, yeah, or like something, you know, like if you picture Cerebus with one head, that kind of dog, call him Titus, call him Justice, but don't call your children Titus and Justice. Unless you want them to be the star of a romance book. It's the same reason why you don't call your kids Fabio. It's a thing, okay? You just don't do it. Or a Chihuahua, yes.
What was it? Chance, Chase, and Chandler?
Chad, Chase, and Chandler.
Okay.
I think. But yes, I would have an ironically named Chihuahua, like called Titus. I could do that too.
That is also acceptable.
You couldn't have like a poodle because that's just you can't. But you either go for a butch dog or a Chihuahua. maybe a Pomeranian.
Yeah.
So Titus is now doing a drivey drive back to the free zone. And someone from the private's following him to make sure he leaves. And he gets a phone call, and it's from Faith, and she's like, Robin's missing, and no one's seen her since before you left. And he's like, well, I don't know where the frick of Robin is, I'm sorry. And she's like, okay, well, if you see it or hear anything, let me know. And he's like, cool. And she's like, cool. And then he leaves the free zone. Then he leaves the territory and enters the free zone. And he stops to do a pee. Because, bodily functions. And he's been driving for hours. And then he gets a whiff of a girl, and he's like, oh, no. And she's like, I know, I'm sorry, but I got to go do a pee. It's been a while. And he's like, oh, no, I got to take you back. And she's like, God, no. And then he's chasing her through the parking lot. And she's like, I need to pee. And he's like, fine, pee. And then he lets her. And then he's like, I'm taking you back to Atlanta now. And she's like, no. He's like, please. And she's like, no. And he's like, you're going to start a war. And she's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, yes, you are. And then he finally agrees to let her come back to his house with him, because she's like, I don't want to be a baby machine. And he's like, I guess that's fair.
Look, I wouldn't want to be a baby machine either. Like,
but also, if you're getting any sort of sense from like these paraphrase conversations / arguments, there's not a lot of substance. There's a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
Like, the thing is, with her, like, with Faith, it was just like, it was really annoying because
she had a vested interest in the continuation of the species. Like, these are her people.
There was no reason to feel bad for her. Because she had no reason to be cranky. Like, she been new. In Faith.
And not just that, but like from the time she was a toddler, before she could really express her lack of interest in baby making, her dad was already being like, hey, I want you to be a strong, independent woman who can, who knows her shit. So, like, her dad was like, you can do both. And she's like, no, I will not do both until I damn well say I will do both. And he's like, but you could do both. And that made her angry.
So Faith is hard to sympathize with, but when you have a character who is not did not consent to this.
Yeah, no, she was a human girl, 6 months shy of graduation and gonna go to grad school, whose secret ambition was to create textbooks without culturally inconvenient omissions, whatever that means.
What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know, because I know that a lot of textbooks that do have bias and stuff, but there's others that also don't. That's why you have to look at multiple sources.
Well, the thing about all right, brief tangent as a history major.
Yes, let's get to that. That sounds way too sarcastic. I'm sorry.
The thing that I have to talk about this, because it's a thing that people say that drives me nuts, is it's not the maybe like a teacher is intentionally lying to you, maybe, but probably not. First of all, high school history teachers are, at least in the United States, typically like the least educated, at least in their field. So usually they get teachers educated in their field for the rest of the subjects, and they just take a random person who also needs a teaching job and have them read out a history textbook to you for high school history. That's how they do it, because that's all you need for a high school history teacher. So you're really good high school history teachers that you remember, and you're like, oh my God, that one was so good. That's probably why. That one actually had a history degree. The other ones were just football coaches who were reading the textbook out loud. The other thing you have to keep in mind about history classes is that it's like, especially in high school, you have a very brief period of time to talk about a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Shit's going to get glossed over. If you want to go in depth and you want to talk about the bad shit, be a history major. Get a history degree.
Or do it on your own time.
Like it's no one's, like, one of the first things that, and this was before I was a history major, when I was just taking like one of the required courses, it was my survey of U.S. history class when I was a freshman. So I was still like a biology major. And one of the first things he said to us, he was like, I know you've probably heard of like lies my teacher told me and all that kind of stuff. He was like, I don't care. I'm not here to whitewash shit. I don't give a fuck. This survey of U.S. history, we gonna gloss over some shit. Get over it.
And then there's also just some things as well where previously believed information is incorrect, or there's differences of opinion as well. Like, for example, Tutankhamun wasn't murdered. A lot of people still think he was bashed over the head and murdered.
Yeah.
They realized, I don't know, I learned about this in year 7, so almost 20 years ago. So it's been known for quite a while. There was some slight remodeling to the fracture, which meant it didn't kill him. And he most likely died of a tooth infection.
Yep.
And then there's also, I can't remember who it was, but there was a pharaoh because a lot of the future pharaohs weren't the queen's sons. They were usually her kid's her daughter's half brother, and it's like the dynasties are all matrilineal things, and if there wasn't a queen's daughter to marry the pharaoh, then that was the start of a new dynasty. But I can't remember who it was, but like the pharaoh died, his wife, like his the next pharaoh, his son, was too young to do anything, so she took over as like regent, I guess, for lack of a better term, and they were co-pharaohs for a while, and he would go off to war, she would stay home and manage stuff. A lot of history peeps think that she wanted him to go off and die, whereas it's actually heavily indicated that she was like, no, a good pharaoh should know how to lead battles. I'll take care of the boring stuff while you go and get some life experience, and then you can come back and do some shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. Also, there's differences of opinion because these events happened sometimes thousands of years ago, and there's just not a lot of firsthand. Like, we just have to look at a bunch of stuff and go, we think this is what happened. Maybe.
Well, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that a lot of the stuff that we know comes, I mean, you have to imagine it like this. Imagine if like all you knew about our society is like wedding dresses and prom and what presidents wore.
Yes.
And like that's it. And you also knew like some of the speeches presidents gave. Like that's kind of, I mean, we know more than that, but it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like that in some cases. Sorry.
I said people don't preserve the peasant farmers' like clothing.
Do you know how exciting it is when they do, though? It's so fun. Historians get so excited whenever it's like, no, historians don't give a fuck. Like, for example, like the
like they find another tomb, they found another tomb.
Yeah, like the Civil War, for example. If you have an intact infantry uniform, from either side, it doesn't matter. Like an intact infantry uniform, that is worth so much more than any like high-ranking officer uniform. Nobody gives a fuck about those. But if you have an intact, everybody freaks the fuck out because those are the ones that did not survive.
Yeah.
So Yeah, and the other thing you have to keep in mind is that when you get to college, I mean, you're taking like history of the left ankle. I mean, like we get real specific. So
Yeah.
that's why like we have time to talk about things because
Yeah,
like I've
like,
had some
I
history
think,
classes that cover literally 10 years and we talk about that for like we talk about 10 years for a whole semester.
yeah, like in high school, we had to do a good chunk of time. I think like a year on Australian history, and that still wasn't enough to go through everything.
Yeah. Also, depending
Like,
on what
and
region,
we're a really baby country. Like, we're very young.
and depending on where you are in America, that's going to change like what kind of American history you get. So, I live in the South. We spend a lot of time on the Civil War. If you live out west, you probably spent a lot more time on Western expansion than we did. So
Like,
there's also stuff
live out
like
in the
that.
West, you learn a lot about how the West was won.
Yeah. So like, don't be as harsh on your high school history teachers. Be harsher on the school system and the fact that they don't actually hire history teachers to teach you guys history.
Yeah, they hire like the gym teacher who needs to fill a few periods.
Yeah.
And by hire, I mean like they're just like, hey, you can also do this. You know, I had an awesome history teacher. He was like, and not just like because he knew what he was talking about, but also he encompassed like all the different learning methods into his lesson plans. Like we did a bunch of lessons where we were just copying stuff out of textbooks, a bunch where we were discussing and debating and stuff like that. Because, you know, guess what? You can debate about history. Especially the older the history is, the more you can debate because there's so much more interpretation there. Like we would spend this like 3 lessons in a row learning the same stuff in different ways.
Yeah.
And everyone did really well on their exams as a result.
And also
it's great when you have a teacher that cares that much.
And students report that they like history the least. And I think that's because you don't have history people teaching history. Because I didn't like a lot of my history classes in high school, but when I got to college, obviously I loved them. And I think that's because you have a bunch of history nerds talking about history. And whenever you have somebody
excited, you get excited.
Yeah, because whenever you have like a nerd who's just like, oh my god, you guys, impalement, you're like, yeah, fucking, why am I excited about impalement? But it's really fun to talk about impalement with somebody who's just so fucking excited to talk about impalement. It's fun. But it's not fun in high school because they don't tell you about impalement in high school.
I mean, when I say when your teacher's excited, you get excited, it depends. Like if you get a really excited math teacher, that's a different story.
Honestly, that worked for me in high school, but I'm weird.
Yeah, like I mean, it's good for them to still have some level of enthusiasm, but like when they're like, oh my god, we're doing Pythagoras theorem today, you're like, I don't care.
I cared. That was the best math teacher I had.
Honestly though, I about 2 months before my HSC, I switched from 3-unit advanced math down to just general math because I'm just like, I'm not going to uni. I don't care. Let's just have a breezy time for my exams, you know. And I should have known, but I should have known by my new teacher, the look in his eyes, that I made a mistake because he just looked like he had lost all hope. And then he asked the class what 8 times 6 was, and after they all just looked at him blankly. And after the 6th one got it wrong, he just gave us the answer. And I'm just looking around the class like, I don't know. Like, I don't know about you, but I feel like we all memorize, like, you know how the basic times tables of, you know, the 1s to 12s.
Yeah, we did that in 4th grade.
Like, yeah, like by year 4, You knew up all the way up to year 12s.
At least I did.
And
I had them memorized.
Well, you're supposed to know them by then. Like, maybe like year 7, you'll still get like some of the kids that just have a really hard time with math, struggling with what 12 times 12 is and stuff like that. And the 7s can be a little bit tricky for some people. But 2 months before you're about to take the most important exams of your school life to date, and you don't know what 6 times 8 is, I feel like that. I feel like you're a lost cause. You're 18 and you don't know. You have a calculator in front of you and none of them picked it up. They all just looked at him blankly.
That hurts.
And that was the day I realized I made a big mistake. I did really well though.
I'm sure you did.
I didn't have to study for that exam, and I did perfectly fine. And that was the main reason I dropped down, because I didn't want to have to study. I'm like, I can't be bothered. I'm not going to uni. These exam results mean nothing to my future. So why stress over calculus?
Because calculus is fun.
See, we started learning calculus at like 7:30 in the morning. And I'm just like, I'm too tired for this shit. And I'm like, 7:30, like 0 period classes is a bad time to try and teach like a night owl advanced calculus. I feel like
I completely agree with you there. I do not absorb information well super early in the morning.
Yeah, like I feel like, because like the English, because like we had for like the 3-unit and 4-unit period, like classes, we would get an extra 2 periods a week, either before or after school. English ones were after school. The math ones were before school.
Yeah.
I'm like, who tried to teach advanced math at 7:30 in the morning? Why couldn't they have done the English at 7:30 in the morning and the advanced math in the afternoon? I feel like that would have been a wiser. Oh. Was not expecting that.
You know, even like, even now that I'm an adult who's supposed to be adjusted to being up early, like the last semester I took, I had at a 9 a.m. class, and we were just all delirious the entire time.
Yeah.
Which led to some fun situations. But it also led to some very derailed discussions, especially when he would try to get serious.
Wait. Headphones are doing their thing again. Talk now?
Hello.
Okay. I'm just going to leave them out for a bit. This is where I need new headphones, just putting that out there into the universe right now.
Especially when he would try to get serious and we would just refuse to participate. And we were just like, look, this is a 9 a.m. class, and that's a really good question, but I am tired. I want Chick-fil-A. And and I got nothing. But good question. Good question. And he was like, are you guys fucking kidding me? We were like, yep. Nope, no, we're not.
Too early for this shit. Should we get back to the book now, though?
I guess.
Okay, so he takes Robin back to his supposed mansion that only has 7 bedrooms and 20 acres, but he's a multi-billionaire in Mississippi. I feel like multi-billions would buy you all of Mississippi.
It would.
Am I wrong?
No. I'm sorry, Mississippi. I don't know if there is like a nice part of Mississippi.
There's pretty parts of Mississippi.
There are gorgeous parts of but I mean, I don't know if there's a ritzy part in it. That's what I said.
Mississippi, wealthy area. Let's have a look, shall we?
I feel like it's just gonna be like, no. Did you mean delusional?
In a town called Rich. When I typed in Mississippi wealthy area, first thing was Rich, Mississippi. But I feel like it's not.
I feel like that's a hardcore no.
First called Yazoo Park Station. Yeah, no, that's nothing. The wealthiest city in Madison, which is in the Jackson metro area. Now I need to scroll down this whole list until I get to the M's. Okay. No, I went past the M's. I'm now in the N's. Okay, Nevada, Nebraska, Montana, Missouri, Mississippi is Madison. Population, 25,500. Median income, $103,000 a year. Median home value, $250,000. The median home value in the richest part of Mississippi is only $250,000. So I feel like this only reinforces my thing that he should have.
He should own all of Mississippi.
He should own Mississippi. And I also feel like this only reinforces that the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company is not based in Mississippi. I mean, maybe that's how they made their billions, because they're based there, so the costs are low. I don't know. I just feel like that puts them at a disadvantage. Because again, it's not like he had to move the company there because he got a scratch. Because he's in his family home still. This was where he grew up. This is where he lived with his parents. This is where his company is based. So he's more inconvenienced in relation to his business than anything.
Yeah.
I don't think she thought this through. This isn't where the multi-billion-dollar value tech guy lives. I'm just putting that out there. And if he does live there, he has a hell of a lot more than 20 acres. Especially like if he's going to have cats living on his property, he's going to want a lot more than that. He's going to want minimum 200 acres. Probably more.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Maggie says there is definitely a conspicuous lack of outlining to this book. To this world, to this universe, there is a conspicuous lack of outlining, I feel.
I mean, apparently some bitch was just like, you should do like a billionaire cat thing. And she just went, okay.
Okay. Yeah, like I feel like she could have put more thought into the situation. But she didn't. And now we're here with a multi-billionaire living on a... Again, I would love to have 20 acres, but I'd love a lot more, you know, and I'm not a multi-billionaire werecat. He should be living in a freaking castle with 3 other castles. He should have bought out the Biltmore estate by now.
Well, that's
how rich this guy supposedly is.
I mean, that's in North Carolina, but
it doesn't matter where it is. He should own it. Like his family, like he should have had to leave there when he got scratched. That's how rich his family is. But no, he lives in a 7-bedroom house in Mississippi on 20 acres. And everyone's impressed by it.
Well, they are in Mississippi.
Robin's not from Mississippi. And she knows what kind of houses wealthy people live in.
That's true.
He's currently living in a middle-class property in Mississippi.
Well, 7 bedrooms is not middle class.
No, Mississippi middle class. You can buy a lot in Mississippi, okay? And again, I'm not putting down Mississippi. I'm just saying it doesn't have a high property value. Because there's not a lot there. Which actually that would probably make it perfect for me. I don't like people. So if I was to move to the US, I'd be moving to nowhere near a city. So none of this is me putting down small states or small population states.
We already agreed we're building our castle in Montana.
I know. I want to live in Montana because then I get my snow and I get snow, okay? And I get a lot of snow. And I get to live surrounded by woods with little to no risk of bushfires. And I like that, okay? And plus, if you're ever going to run into a supernatural creature in the US, it's going to be in Montana because every urban fantasy book series, there is at least one Montana scene.
Yeah.
It's a staple. It is an urban fantasy staple, okay? I'm not going to be Mississippi Mara, okay? I'm not.
Oh, yeah. No, you can't go to Mississippi ever now. That's not okay.
I feel like Mississippi would get humid, hey?
Yeah, it's humid as fuck. It's the South.
No, I'm not going to Mississippi. It's fine.
It's humid as fuck here right now.
I will go there in the winter.
It's humid in the winter. Like, do you see my hair?
I do.
I didn't choose this.
Yeah, well, Stixon wants me to freaking move to Queensland. And I'm like, we went up there in January. And my hair was like, okay, just times the volume of your hair by about 30, and that's what I was walking around with.
No, I can't visit you like that.
I put like the day that we got there, I put away my straightener and just went to lost cause. Fuck it. I'm done. I thought where I live gets humid. No. Sorry. Did you look at YouTube chat?
Look, I don't like this, all right? No, this is not.
I could be Montana, Mara. That's fine. And then if I move to Montana as well, I'm not too far away from where they film Heartland, and that would make me happy too. Okay. So that's fine. I think I'll do that. Have you ever watched Heartland?
I have not.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I cry multiple times a season, and I was sobbing the first episode. It's devastating. Anyway, I'm done. I'm sorry.
I don't even know what it is.
It's a multi-generational show. So like, there's the grandfather, his granddaughters, their father comes into it at some point in the first season. Then there's usually like a younger generation as well. And they own a horse ranch in Canada.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's generally the basic premise of the show. She's the main chick in it she's like a horse whisperer type person, and she fixes broken horses. And every time I watch that show, my accent gets a little bit Canadian for a while. I've accidentally said multiple times, like, that's gore. I've got myself and I'm like, no.
It's like when I talk to you.
Oh, honestly, every so often, like, I can't even do it intentionally, but every so often, naturally, my arms get a little bit hard.
Sorry.
And I hear it like this. Oh, it's you. It's my daughter.
Well, we're both people that like accidentally adapt to whatever the fuck is happening.
You know, like, I've spoken to multiple new people and they're like, oh, are you American? I'm like, God, no. I mean, like, I'm not offended, but no. But, yeah, no, every so often, like, a little bit of a hard R will slip out. And I'm just like, I don't know how that happened, because I still can't do it intentionally. If I try and hard R intentionally, it just feels like my mouth is having a stroke. But occasionally, like, you know, a mild hard R slips through.
Yeah, occasionally after we've like been talking for a while, occasionally my accent yeets, and I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but
I can see how Maggie would get mistaken for a foreigner sometimes. His accent is not like my accent. And it sounds really proper. He sounds very proper, IRL. But yeah, so we're like 10% of the book.
Yeah, so anyway, so they it's been an hour and a half. Okay, so
they go to the house.
Yeah, so they got to the house.
They're at the house, and Abby's like, "You're here." And she's like, "I'm here." And Jason's like, "Why the fuck is she here?" And Titus is like, "I do not know why the fuck she is here." And Jason's like, "We gotta take her back now, because like shit's gonna go down if the council don't get their straight Tabby back." And Titus is like, "I know, but I can't let it go because he's already got a boner for her because it's a romance book." And he's like, "You gotta call Faith." And she's like, "Fine, I'll call Faith." "Nah, not now though." And he's like, "No, now." And then so she calls Faith, and she's like, "Hi, I did a thing, and then he didn't know, I swear, but yeah, I'm here." And Faith is like, "Let me talk to Titus." And she's like, "Okay." So he's like, "I'll bring her back in 2 weeks. She needs a break." And Faith's like, "You better bring her back in 2 weeks. A war's gonna happen." And she's like, "Excellent." So he's got 2 weeks to make her fall in love with him. I mean, 2 weeks to get her used to the idea of going back, which won't happen because, again, it's a romance book. And then he gets a phone call, and it's like, "New straight incoming." And he's like, "Ah!" So then he runs down to the basement cellar where they keep the new strays, and there's a guy coming in, and Robin's like, "Oh, and we're back to stray cats having the smell of their infectors now. We forgot about that last book, but it's a major plot point this book."
Well, because it's only a plot point when it needs to be a plot point.
Because last book it was like, "Abby, are you sure you didn't scratch a robin?" Whereas now it was like, you know, "Oh, as soon as they shift, you can smell them." And then the guy shifts, and it's Titus's scent. Oh no! Oh, by the way, before this, because it takes a while for him to shift, we meet some of the other guys there. There's Knox, who is like, his first name is Alistair, but he doesn't like being called that, and want to know why, because he's a tabbed up chef. Oh, the formal dinner. That, because the sniffy thing happens after the formal dinner. He just, because they all ate off of paper plates because no one likes doing dishes, and I'm like, well, that's fair. You know, I'm down with that. None of them want to do the dishes, so they all ate off of paper plates.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing he got rid of the cleaning stuff when he became a cat. And yeah, it's a house full of men that were raised not to be cats. And yeah, very few people in general, but I guess especially, you know, these guys are like, I can't wait to do the dishes tonight. So they just eat off of paper plates.
Which honestly, fair.
The only thing that they don't use paper or plastic for is like alcohol glasses, which again, fair. There's something about drinking out of plastic for alcohol.
Yeah.
And you just put them in the dishwasher. It's fine. But then Robin comes inside because, she's gone out to because she bonds with the new stray for a bit. I think he cats up first and then she comes inside, but we don't smell his infected scent yet because it takes a while for him to, merge. And she comes inside and they're like all setting the table with fine china and she's like, what the fuck's going on? And she's like, oh, we're having a fancy schmancy dinner in your honor. And she's like, my honor. And they're like, yes, Titus insisted. And she's like, but why? And they're like, I literally have no idea. This literally makes no point to the plot. It adds nothing.
Yeah.
And it makes it a little bit uncomfortable. But we're doing it. And me as the reader, I'm like, I'm right there with you. I don't understand the point.
I forgot it happened.
I guess it's to show he's a gentleman that was raised affluently. But his name should tell you that he was raised affluently.
We were told he was raised affluently. It's okay.
Yes.
I believe you.
And like she walks in, right? They're like, oh, we're foregoing the formal dress because you have no clothes. Because she only has the clothes that she's wearing. And she walks in and literally there's like these 12 men in the house all standing formally by their chairs waiting for her to sit. Like they're doing the whole old school, if the woman stands, every male must stand. If the woman's entering the room, every male must be standing. They're doing that whole thing, and it's just uncomfortable. But then also, even in Robin's head, she keeps referring to Titus as their host. Like we're in a scene of Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
And it just went weird. It just went weird for a bit there.
Yeah, it was really odd.
Also, prior to this as well, I believe. Oh yeah, so for a minute they're also somewhere while they're still at his house. Robin is just like, okay, yeah, fine. Titus is kind of hot, and she lets herself think that he's hot for a minute there. And she's like, picturing them hooking up in their head because romance book. I don't know about you, but and it's been a while. It's been quite a while since, I'm in a situation with a guy that I've just met and I'm like, I kind of want to bone you. It's been years. But when I'm talking to him, getting a bit flirty, I don't just start picturing in my head, cold night, warm bed, bare bodies, Titus's hands sliding over and then the thought gets cut off because he speaks. You don't actually start. I don't know. Do you have a picture of that specific scenarios while talking to someone? No. Or was it just more like, hey, look, I kind of wouldn't mind getting it on. That's what your thoughts are.
Maybe it's because, granted, it could be because I have a very difficult time seeing images in my brain. My brain is mostly words.
Yeah, so, same. When I've done had to do any sort of world building ever, I always need visual references.
Yeah, and I can draw and stuff, and I'm not the kind of person that can just draw. I can draw, but I can't just. I need references.
Yeah, you need your references to draw.
Yeah, so I can't picture things in my head, so I don't. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why anytime I've thought somebody was attractive, it has always stopped at yeah, I would do that.
I would do it.
Yeah, maybe that's why. I don't know, but maybe not.
Yeah, Who knows? But I've just personally, like, whenever like a romance book like just like has them like, you know, thinking in their heads like, you know, like setting the scene in their heads, I'm just like,
My brain is always just like, you're busy.
But then because this is the bit where we get to the thing that I texted you, because she was asking something about, you know, like, well, is everyone's like this in terms of how they first start out, like as cats. And he's like, I'm sure the learning curve is different for everyone, and I'm just as sure that there are things that you're better at than I am. Oh no, it's about stepping, because she's like, why can't I pick up on things like sounds yet?
Oh yeah.
And he's like, I'm just as sure that there are things that you're better at than I am. And this is her flirting. We need to clarify. She's flirting with him right now. And this is what comes out of her mouth. Any idea what those things are? Because off the top of my head, all I can come up with is menstruation and makeup application. And I couldn't swear to that second one. And then Titus laughed, and the sound filled her with a joy in a deeply felt but incomprehensible way. And I'm like, in no circumstance.
That's not flirting.
In no circumstance ever conceived by anyone in mankind do you use the word or allude to menstruation when flirting with a guy you just met.
Love advice from Book Club with Bay.
Yes, if you want to get laid, do not say menstruation, because Six is not a prude when it comes to periods. Like, I mean, like, he's got no interest in knowing, like, he's happy being on a need-to-know basis with that. But if I was like, hey, baby, I'm really good at menstruating, I'm pretty sure he would have just left. And I would not have his children right now.
I'm texting my boyfriend that right now.
What, are you just texting him saying, hey, baby, I'm really good at menstruating?
I just want to see what happens.
Make sure you do a winky emoji so it's clear it's flirting. And yeah, no, not even with a vampire, because no. At no point in time.
Okay, that's done.
That's what she said.
I will,
like,
if he responds, I will report back.
Yeah, like, her flirting with him was, I'm better at you than menstruating.
That's flirty, right?
That's hella flirty. Like, I can't believe he didn't take her then and there. But anyway, so yeah, they have like the really awkward formal dinner, and then, oh, that's right, and then someone goes to take the stray out some food, and he's gone, and they're like, no, he's gone. So then they're like, everyone's trying to find him because it's a brand new cat, and they're like, well, he doesn't know how to control himself yet. So like, they're not being like, you know, trying to hold him hostage. They just want to make sure that he doesn't, you know, attack anyone. And Titus and Robin are chilling at the house, and she's like, I want to go looking too, and he's like, no. And then she's like, well, too bad, I'm going, you can come with me or not. And then he's like, where are you going? And she's like, scene of the crime, aka where he was. And they find like Titus's shredded clothes, and he's like, I don't know why Titus's clothes were down there.
Sorry.
Did he write back?
Yeah.
What did he say?
It's just the emoji. I'm sending it to you.
Is it a vom emoji?
No, it's just, you'll see.
Maybe you should text back, thank you for your contribution to science, so he knows that it's a book.
I'm going to.
Or you could just respond back with, is that not a turn on? Just keep it going.
I'm gonna let him off the hook. I'm just gonna go ahead and go ahead and bail myself out
in the near future. So yeah, and then he's like, where do you think he'd go after this? And she's like, inside the house. I can't remember why she thinks he's gone inside the house, but they go inside the house. Or they see something torn up, and it's more of like Titus's shit all torn up, and she's like, he's in your room. And they go up to his room, and there he is, ripping the shit out of his clothes. But then he has a shower, and he's like, I can't get him off me. He's all I can smell. And question, right? Because Titus can smell. Because plot twist, this guy's infected scent is Titus's scent. And so it's like, Titus scratched a person. And Titus can smell it. Can you smell yourself on things?
Can what?
Well, Titus can smell his scent within, what was his name? Morris. He can smell his scent in Morris's scent. Can you smell your own scent? Because I always pictured it as like, if you, like, for example, in Mercy, right? Because, you know, where wolves can track by scent. If they were like, you know, they're trying to find where they walked earlier. So they're sniffing for their own scent. Will they be able to detect their own scent because they're surrounded by their own scent?
Yeah, because, I mean, I kind of imagine it like, kind of like how you can't smell your own house.
I feel like you need a third party to smell your scent elsewhere, because you are always smelling your own scent because it is you.
Like, for example, like when I'm around Addie or my boyfriend, I can smell like what their shampoo smells like. Those are just two examples that come to mind. But like, I can't smell my own shampoo.
Yeah, but like, but say you could smell your own shampoo and you had to try and find a trace of your own shampoo in a room, but because you're smelling your own shampoo in your hair, would you be able to detect where your shampoo scent was within the room?
I don't have a super nose, so I don't know.
Because I don't think you can find your own scent.
I mean, and they're also not supposed to be like, they're also not supposed to have doggo noses.
No, they've got the good noses. They just can't track with scent.
Why
They've always
not
had
then?
Because they don't have the instincts to follow a trail. That actually is a thing. There are some dogs that literally can't follow a trail to save their own lives, where there are others that are better at it. Like the dogs with the longer ears, like basset hounds, beagles, all that, they're really good at following trails, which is why they're typically used as, for example, like bloodhounds are used to track blood trails because they're good at doing that. Whereas because cats hunt with their ears, like they track where something is based on the sound it's making and what they can see. And I think that this is actually accurate. Yeah, they can't really track by a smell.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, werecats at least, they can use scents to identify things, but they can't follow a scent trail. I feel like the strays might have an easier time with it though, depending on the individual human, because they weren't raised with cat instincts, and that's a big thing that gets brought up multiple times in this book, that they're having to adapt to their human instincts colliding with their cat instincts, whereas pride-born cats are born and raised with natural cat instincts.
Yeah.
So if someone's a really good like detective type person and really good at like Robin, like she seems to be able to take a little bit of information and go with it. She potentially might have the ability to track via scent because she's also got her human born instincts.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think we ever really go into whether or not strays are capable, or some individual strays may be capable. But yeah, so this guy, his infector scent is Titus's, and they're like, what the fuck? And Titus is like, oh no. And this guy's freaking the fuck out over it. He's like, I can't get him off of me. He's all I smell. And that's why I destroyed all of Titus's clothes. And then, Titus ends up stepping down as alpha. And he's like, I'm only going to hurt the pride. Drew, you're in charge. Old buddy, old pal. I'm going to go. And Robin's like, you need to tell me what actually happened because I know you didn't do a thing. And so he tells her, I think it must be my brother, full-blooded siblings of the same sex, smell almost identical. He must be a stray now. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he's going to where his brother was, like goes to college to try and find him. Robin's like, I'm coming too. He's like, no. And she's like, yes. And he's like, no. And he's like, yes. And he's like, okay, fine, yes. That seems to be the theme with these, at least so far, with these two books, is like, boy says no, girl says yes, boy says no, girl says yes, boy concedes.
Yeah.
So she goes with him. They also found out earlier how this guy was infected. He was at a cabin with his friend and his friend's girlfriend. They were hooking up. He felt like a third wheel, went outside at the cabin, got scratch-a-doodled. And so they go to Justice's house or apartment, and he's not there, but his room's been destroyed, or his living room's been or his bedroom, sorry, has been it looks like a bomb hit it. And they're like, fuck, well, he's not here. Oh, no. So then they decide to go and suss out and try and find out what the fuck happened because they don't know. And so they hack into his computer because the brother of the CEO of a multi-billion tech company has his mother's name as his password, and I don't think that that's accurate.
No.
Because the father was the CEO before Titus was. No tech genius dude would allow their sons to have such a simple password. It works for the plot, though, so I guess we just go with it. They find out that he was with this chick named Ivy at some point, and they're like, oh, that was the same name as the friend's girlfriend. So then, like, well, let's try and find the cabin then. So then they find the cabin. They go there, and they do a sniffy sniff of a dead body, and it's Ivy, and she looks like she died from scratch fever, and she's been half eaten. And they're like, well, fuck. So they're like, let's bury an Ivy then. So they go to bury an Ivy, and then a random cat appears, is like pounce, and they're like, no, and he's like, ah, and then they help him ship back, and it's the friend who was like the girlfriend's boyfriend, and he's like, I don't know, a cat did a scratchy scratch and then did a scratchy scratch on her too, and then I was locked in the house and I was so hungry and I accidentally ate some of her until I managed to get out of the house. And I was really disappointed with something with this character. But then they take him back to brother's house. They realize that maybe they're not at that point. They weren't sure if Ivy was cheating on this guy with the brother or on the brother with this guy. It turns out she was cheating on this guy with the brother.
Yeah.
But the brother didn't know about that guy, I think.
Yeah.
But Ivy was a skank. And I also feel like they did this wrong because Justice wouldn't have been on her Facebook if she was cheating on her boyfriend with Justice without Justice knowing about the boyfriend. But he was on her Facebook.
Yeah.
So they take him back to Justice's apartment. He sleeps in the guest room. Titus is going to sleep on the couch. Robin's going to sleep in his room. They find the clothes he was attacked in, like when he first got infected, but there was no, like, the infected scent wasn't there, so they're like, oh well. And then they bone. Because what else are you going to do when you have a knife kill? You bone. And they're like, oh, I guess we're together now. That's a thing. And Robin's like, I still don't have any clothes, so. Also, why the hell would she have put on his giant pants? Like, in most of these situations, because he gave her some clothes to sleep in while her clothes got washed. He gave her like a really oversized t-shirt, but then like really oversized pants that just like with a drawstring. But I'm just like, why wouldn't she just wear the shirt?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But yeah, she managed to get laid though while wearing well, the process was initiated while she was wearing really oversized sweatpants. And I don't feel like that's accurate either. You don't hit on a girl when she's wearing a pair of like sweatpants that are like 5 sizes too big for her.
Yeah.
But they do. And then they talk to Leland, because that's the boyfriend's name. They talk to Leland more in the morning. He's like, why do you two smell like each other? Oh, you guys did bang. I was going to marry Ivy one day, but now she's dead and I ate her and I'm sad. And then they're like, we got to go do some more investigating. I don't think it's a good idea to leave you here in case he comes back and freaks out. So let's take you back to your dorm room. Stay inside. And Robin makes a mental note of he's actually doing really well for a newly scratched cat who had a bit of a traumatizing experience. And, you know, they're setting Leland up. Like, I don't know if she intended to do this, but she's setting Leland up to be the plot twist bad guy.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
And he wasn't. He was literally what he appeared to be. A guy that was doing better than would be expected. I thought maybe he was the guy that infected Justice.
Yeah.
That's what I was. No, wasn't. Like, and he was setting him up. I don't know. But no, it was. We find out soon that, you know, because they find a hospital admission or hospital bill or something in the pockets of the jeans he was wearing when he was attacked. So they're like, he was at Spencer's hospital because Spencer works at the EI and he brings in scratch-fevered strays. There we go. And Titus is like, well, Spencer mustn't have been working that night. Oh, no. So he calls up Spencer and he's like, hey, howdy doody, we need a thingy thing. Drew's also told everyone not to contact Titus to try and help make the transition smoother because he's in charge now. But Robin calls Spencer and she's like, hey, Spencer, I need a help. And he's like, what do you need? And she's like, put Titus on. And Titus is like, I need records. I need the records. And he's like, okay, I'll get you the records. So then they meet. And he's like, oh, yeah, so I wasn't working that night, but it was here, and here. These are the dates. And he's like, okay, we know when he was infected now. And they're like, Spence, please don't tell anyone. And he's like, oh, why? I'm going to go back to work now. So he goes back to work. Oh, so we think. And then they're like, well, we got to go and see Leland, but he's not picking up the phone. And they get there, and he's dead.
Yeah.
It looks like he's fallen and hit his head, but they're like, well, why is he covered in hand sanitizer to destroy smells if he wasn't killed by a werecat? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, it must have been someone from within the pride. Yeah. And from this point on, I knew exactly who the bad guy was. It was the only thing. Especially like when they mentioned him and they dismissed him immediately. I was like, it's him. It's him. Yeah. But first we have to act like Spencer might be the bad guy. So they're like, oh, it's Spencer, clearly. So then they go to Spencer's place and break down his door, and they're like, Spencer, you're a murderer. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm sleeping. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you're not the murderer. He's like, no, I'm freaking well damn not the murderer. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then they realize that everyone that had been scratched by Justice was going to a blind tiger party, which is like a week-long thing of party nights. Yeah. So like, the last one's tonight. We need to find out where it is. So Robin calls the stray that she bonded with that had Titus's scent. Oh, well, now we're Justice's scent. And they're like, and she's like, where's the last blind tiger party? It's tonight. And he's like, it's at the zoo. And someone else is from the Pride is there, and he's like, why are you going to the zoo? And she's like, because it's a thing. And then she's like, bye. And then she hangs up. So then they go to the zoo. Yeah. And they're waiting, and they're waiting, and then they're like, oh, look, it's a Justice. And she's a cat. And Titus is a human. And Justice is just walking along carrying a keg, and they're like, how can he look so happy when he's killed people and infected people? Like, what the fuck, dude? And Titus is like, yo, Just, and he's like, yo, Ty, what you doing here? And he's like, oh, this is my girlfriend, she's a cat. You know, and Justice is like, you mean I'm not the only one? And he's like, no, you're not the only one. And they're like, wait, there's a drawer over there. So then because they haven't gotten close yet, you know, they're a bit far away. So they haven't smelled Justice's proper smell yet. And then Titus goes over and he's like, oh, Drew, what are you doing here, bro? And he's like, oh, I came to take a Robin back because if I hand her back tonight, we get to be real Pride. And he's like, well, that's not happening. And he's like, well, no, it is happening. Meanwhile, Robin's talking to Justice, and then she gets a sniffy sniff, and she's like, it's true. And then she's like, and then she like humans, and she's like, yo, Titus, I need to talk to you. It's true. And oh no, she's still human. Sorry, she's still a cat, and she drags Titus over to Justice to make him smell him. And then he's like, it's true. And then he chases after Drew, but then she turns back into a human while she's with Justice, and she's like, by the way, Drew did this to you. And he's like, no. And then he cats out. Again. So,
okay, can you just
fucking do? Huh?
It's like, is it just me, or is this plot like weirdly convoluted? Like, can we just, for a moment, because, like, I know we said at the beginning when we rated this, like, oh no, it was fine, like, you know, for the, like, the plot was, like, fine. Now that we're talking about it, I'm changing my mind. I don't like the plot. Because it's one of those things, like, when it's in your brain and only your brain, you're kind of like, that's fine. But then, like, once you have to say it out loud, you're like, what the fuck?
It wasn't enjoyable enough read, though.
It was, but, like, once you realize that you let somebody sit there and drag you in circles, you're like, why did I enjoy that? I was on a carousel And I'm upset about it. Because yeah, it really was just like we knew it was a thing, but now we have to wait and then go sniff him and then go like double sniff him and then go triple sniff him and then bring somebody over to triple sniff him and then like we have to like and so much
I have
sniffing.
a question. Did you notice that the final showdown with Drew happened in the zoo's amphitheater?
In what?
In the zoo's little outdoor amphitheater.
I didn't.
It did, and I hope it happened on the stage part of the amphitheater.
These are the things I miss when we don't have audiobooks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it happened there. Oh, where are we? Freaking hell. Wait. Where is it? Okay, here we go. I'm there. I ran past the blah blah blah, one of the leopards growled in a zoo, blah blah blah. Where the fuck is it? Yeah, they're in a freaking amphitheater. But yeah, so Titus chases after freaking Drew, and then he's like, "No, how could you do this?" And he's like, "You couldn't just fuck off and leave, could you? You know, you had to come and do a thing. You had to try and solve the crime." And he's like, "Drew, why are you doing this? We were bros." And he's like, "It's about the pride. How could you take my pride from me?" And he's like, "What are you talking about? The pride was my idea, man. I should have been alpha." And like he's holding a gun at him, and he's like, "I deserve to be alpha." I really did like this. I really did like this one thing. Because Titus is like, "You're right, though I would have considered any point he made while he had a gun aimed at my chest. I didn't mean to cut you out. I didn't even realize you wanted to be alpha." And then this is back in his head. And the plain truth was that someone who had to say he wanted to be alpha or waited for others to ask him to be alpha didn't stand much of a chance of actually attaining that goal. Alphas step up because they can't not. And I'm like, I actually kind of, like, I do find that quite accurate. Someone who has to be like, "No, man, I want you to tag me to be boss," is not your boss. Like, a natural leader is just someone who naturally leads. Not, and I did like that, but Drew's just like, "No, okay, I infected Justice because, you know, it would have made it sound like, you know, he would have smelled like you." And then I sent him a picture of his girlfriend burning her boyfriend and told him where she would be. I did that anonymously, though, because, you know, he couldn't know. And then he went there and did a thing, but then he just kept on attacking people, and it was beautiful. It was glorious. You look even more guilty every day. But then Leland worked out what happened, and then I had to kill him. So, you know, it's a thing. And now I have to kill you. And I wanted to take Robin back, but it's such a shame. Like, he does the whole bad guy speech where he tells all his plans, giving enough time for Justice to pounce on him and bite his neck off. Because he does, like, he bites his throat off. And Titus is like, "No, we needed him alive so we could use his testimony as proof that he manipulated you. Because what you did carries a death penalty. Justice, okay?" But, you know.
Well, you're not part of the council, so it doesn't.
Yeah. But
I
now,
feel like she forgets her lore so much. Like, they can't do anything to them.
No, they do execute strays that do naughty stuff.
Oh yeah, that's
right.
I take it back. I apologize.
That's okay. So now,
I can't keep her lore straight either.
Yeah. So now, poor Titus is stuck on a fucking conference call with the council.
conference call, the most badass of badassery.
And they all seemed to like he was like, look, if this is the story, if you don't believe me, like I will ship you Drew's body. I'll send it to you. It's fine. And they're like, no, like we trust you, fam. It's fine. So like they at least believe the events as Titus understands them. But they're like, but we still need to kind of just kill him because he infected people and he killed someone and he risked exposing us. And he's like, but he didn't know. It's not fair. And they're like, well, ignorance isn't bliss in this case, dude. I'm sorry, but we've got to kill your brother. And he's like, and then Robin's like, no, I will not let them take your brother away. And then she called up, she's like, because then they're like, well, fine, we will offer, if Robin stays with us for another year, we will only cut off his fingertips, like to declare him, and consider whether or not we'll tear out his incisors. And Robin's like, well, that's just not good enough. I'm not going to let them mutilate your brother because he had no idea what the fuck was going on and was manipulated into killing people. Because, you know, it's a tough time when you first get a scratchy doodle. And so she calls up and she's like, I will stay in the Southeast Pride forever if he gets 6 months rehab. And they're like, done. We get an extra tabby. Huzzah. And Titus is like, no. And as soon as Robin leaves the room, he calls and he's like, Mark, I need your help. And then we flash forward to the next day. And Mark walks in and he's like, okay, well, he's like, well, Justice, you're coming to South Central Pride with us. And she's like, no, that's bullshit. Why does he get to rehab with Faith and Mark? I wanted to rehab with Faith and Mark, and instead I got the DeCarlos. And I'm thinking, I feel like Rachel Vincent's been a bit harsh on the DeCarlos, okay? They lost their daughter. All their sons get rejected by every tabby they try and woo. And now you're making their home into, like, the worst place to be ever. And they're our friends, supposedly.
The DeCarlos did nothing wrong, okay?
They deserve a tabby, okay? Give them a damn tabby. But then Mark's like, okay, Justice, you ready to do this shit? And Justice is like, hell yes, I am. He's like, do you swear to do a Pride membership? And he's like, fuck yes, I swear to do a Pride membership. And he's like, excellent. You're now guaranteed a trial. Robin, would you like to reconsider your deal? Because he gets a trial now because he's a Pride member. And she's like, well, fuck yes. And then she calls up and she's like, well, you know what? I was never part of your Pride. You just have no claim over me. I'm staying here, yo. Peace. And bookends. She's like, yeah, I'm not joining a Pride. He can have his trial. I'm staying in the free zone. I was never a Pride cat. You have no authority over me. And that's how the book ends.
Yep. Very unceremoniously.
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure they, like, make out for a minute and, you know, Titus like, oh, you're my boo. And she's like, oh, yes, I'm your boo. And then, you know, oh, that's right. He drags her to a bedroom for sex. And that's how the book ends.
Yeah.
My bad. And yeah. And next book is about justice.
Yep.
So we get 2 billionaire werecats in the one series. Not one.
2.
You get 2.
Yay.
Question, can you bring that map back up again? I just want to see where Vegas is in terms of the territories. Free zone?
I think Southwest Pride.
Wait,
because it would
let
be
me bring
like
up.
there.
Oh, where is it? Because then that's going to cause complications for the next plot.
Southwest Pride, I think.
Maps. Let's zoom. Ooh. It could be just because. Bring your cursor up for a second so I can see where. Okay, up.
Like
down, 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 down. Okay, and left. No, not that far down. Okay, down a bit. Okay, so it's around that. Like, is that longitude? The up down one?
yeah, yes. No, latitude.
Latitude. Okay, if the up down one is latitude, it's around that latitude, and I just don't know if it's slightly to the left or slightly to the right of the border. I'm looking at.
Yeah, well, because it's in Nevada, so it would
like
be
it's
like
slightly to the left.
so
Yeah,
like
it looks
there.
Like, you see where that water, like the water bit?
Yeah.
It's like the pointy bit of the water. It's immediately north of that. So yeah, it's just into the Southwest Pride, according to the map. We'll see how that plays out in the actual.
We'll see if she remembers the maps.
Well, she took the map off her website, so I don't know.
All right. Well, we remember the map.
Yeah. So yeah, it's. I mean, it's not too far into the territory. It's probably a half-hour drive in. But according to the map, it's in the territory.
Yeah. I wonder why she took the map off the website.
Probably because too many people were asking questions about why a good chunk of why Arizona and some of New Mexico are not in it at all. Like, what are they? What is Arizona?
I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe she just got the shits with people asking what the fuck Arizona is.
Yeah.
But because yeah, the Vegas is central to the next book's plot.
Well, we shall see. But next week should be Midnight Sun.
It should be.
If not, it'll be the last book in this series.
Yeah, which is Wild Card.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
So we
Nothing
fucked up the naming theme, which
yeah.
what the fuck?
I don't know.
That would be like a Blackwoods book not beginning with the.
Yeah, like you've got a thing. It's like aside from the novella so far, it's like what? There's something of something.
Yeah, it's like Blackwoods the beginning, Blackwoods the Blades of Redwater, Blackwoods the Outcast of Asmar. So it doesn't have to be like Blackwoods the something of something. Not we have all the books titled. It's not always
the something of something.
It's actually the Blades of Redwater and the Outcast of Asmar are the only two that are the blah of blah. But it's always like of something. But we actually discussed it like when we were naming the Blades of Redwater, like we were like, we could drop the. We haven't done a convention. Like we could do Blackwoods and then other words. So we were like, what do we want to do? Like we haven't.
We like that.
Yeah. We're like, so how do we want to play it?
Like that's if you're gonna have like, because like the naming thing of the original series was like Stray, Shifter, Alpha. Can't remember what the others were, but it was just like a word that related to something thematically to the plot. And then the first book was Lion's Share. Now we've got Blind Tiger. And then we have Wild Card. And I feel like we could have had something else.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, the Mercy books have a very clear naming convention and stuff.
It's noun, verb.
Yeah.
Or adverb.
Well, it's adjective. Well, it's adverb
noun.
verb.
No,
I guess.
It's noun. Because moon, cold, smoke, bitten.
The noun is kind of acting as an adverb.
Yeah, I guess so. Now the adverb.
Yeah.
Verb.
But either way, it's always two words, and the second word is always a past tense verb.
Yeah.
So if you did something like...
So then if she had,
if she did something like red leather, it would be like, wait, no.
That's not accurate.
You'd be like, that's not like... You'd be like, that's not like...
Howling Wolf as a title. There we go. Yeah, if she had like Howling Wolf or Prague's Coyote, I mean, they would just be awful titles to begin with anyway, but they wouldn't fit.
Right. And like the Alpha and Omega series is similar, but it's different because it's an adjective and then a noun, like Dead Heat,
Cry Wolf, Burn Bright.
Yeah.
Oh, Burn Bright doesn't quite fit. I guess it kind of still does. Like it still feels the same, even if it's not grammatically the same.
Yeah, but it's not the same as the Mercy Thompson books.
No, it's just similar. They feel related but different. They're like cousins. Yeah. Which I guess they're foster siblings. Okay, they're foster siblings.
Right. So the naming convention you pick for your series is important, and it's something you should think about when you're titling your books.
Yeah, it's jarring when you just when you change it up, because like for example, can you imagine if one of the Harry Potter books, like the last one was just like Harry Potter wins the war?
You'd be like,
where the rest of Harry Potter and there's something, and then it was just Harry Potter does a thing. It would have been very jarring.
Yeah.
Because we got a naming convention. It's fine. Like if you don't want to have a strict naming convention, then you make all of your titles distinctly different from the beginning. You have nothing similar. Because you can do that too.
Which can be a naming convention. Like that's cool too. But yeah, that was something Addie and I talked about when, like I said, when we were naming the plates of Redwater. We were just like, because we knew we wanted we wanted it to be Blackwoods, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But we didn't know exactly what we wanted the convention to be. Then obviously we stuck with the thing.
Yeah, Blackwoods the.
Yeah.
Like for example, as well, like with Red Queen's War and what's the other actual, like what's the name of the other series?
The Broken Empire.
Broken Empire. So Broken Empire is whatever of Thorns,
It's
Prince King and Emperor of Thorns. Whereas Red Queen's War doesn't really have any sort of theme. It's Prince of Fools, Lawyer's Key.
It's basically the primary subject of the book.
Yeah. But like if you line those three titles up next to each other, like there's not really a theme outside of it's the primary subject of the book.
Yeah,
and
like
that's
the thing
fine.
Blackwoods, the blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean honestly, like some of the placeholder titles were Blackwoods, the blah blah blah.
And that's fine too.
That's how it happens. But also with those titles, it is still like 3 words, so like the Liar's Key and the Wheel of Vashheim. So there is that. The other thing is like actually when we were naming the Blades of Redwater, we did not know what the fuck to do. Like we named that book at the last second. It was really difficult. And the way that we named the book is we were just like, I don't know what to do. And then I was like, well, I'm going to go look at what some other books did to name their fucking books because what are we going to do? And then I was like, okay, well, Blackwood's the Beginning was Blackwood's the Beginning because it was the beginning. And I was like, well, Mark Lawrence just named it the Liar's Key because the Liar's Key was a thing that was in the book. The Blades of Redwater. Fuck it. And that's what happened.
Why not?
You're like, that's a thing that's in the book.
But you know what you don't do though? You don't have 2 big cat titles and then a Las Vegas title.
Well, the other thing that bothers me about the titles of these books is that like they have nothing. I was half expecting the shifter types to change.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, she wants to do the big cat thing. Cool. I got Blind Tiger because the Blind Tiger Party. Well, I'm like, yeah, I guess like and they referenced the term Lion's Den was never used in this book, but it was used in the last book to describe the Mississippi Valley Pride. It was the Lion's Den, and the book was called Lion's Share. And I'm like, I don't. You're grasping at straws there, but I guess kind of maybe it tangentially is semi-related.
Yeah.
Blind Tiger makes more sense than Lion's Share. Lion's Share also just automatically makes sense to the plot at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like look, if you're gonna do a big cat theme, carry it all the way through.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess Abby's a redhead. Lions.
Yes. I don't. They're more like Sandy though.
I'm trying here, okay? I'm grasping at straws.
Let's just all admit that when she didn't have a publisher to override the names of the books, it all got a little fucky. Okay.
But she, like, what would? I mean, what could have been cool is if like all of the names were like cats that were, black.
Yeah.
Like, there could have been a puma. There could have been a panther. And I get, and Rachel likes to remind us every book, panther's not a species. I freaking know. Everyone knows that a panther is not a species of cat. Okay. It's a black insert big cat here.
Yeah, it's a melanistic of whatever, usually a jaguar or a leopard.
Leopard, yeah. I couldn't remember for a second there if it was a cheetah or a leopard.
And honestly, if you have them side by side, they are so difficult to tell apart.
Look, but there's black cats. She could have done them all as black cats because they're all big, solid black cats. Or even if she wanted to keep the lion and the tiger, hell, I would have even been happy with bears for the last one.
Yeah.
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But preferably, she could have done like cheetah. Like there could have been like a Vegas-y pun with a cheetah in there because cheating at cards, cheetah. Like there could have been something that Vegas themed that she could have done cheetah in.
Something clever.
Yeah, she could have done a thing. I would have settled with a leopard. I would have settled with a puma. I would have settled with a cougar. Like there are so many things she could have done, and she just went for wild card.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Casey finally. Casey, we get to be with Casey while she gets boned in the next book, and I don't know how I feel about that because we met Casey when she was 12.
Yeah.
So that's a bit uncomfortable. She was 17 in the first book of these. Is she 18 now? Please tell me she's at least had a freaking birthday between Lion Share and the last book.
Casey?
Yeah, she was 17.
I hope so.
I mean, she would have had to have had a birthday considering the plot premise. See, and that's the thing as well. I kind of wish I hadn't read any of the freaking blurbs because I knew that Robin was a stray, long before it was revealed in Lion Share because I read the blurb to this book. I knew that Justice was going to end up being a stray because I read the blurb to the next book.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Your plot twists don't mean as much when they're on the back of the next book. And I think that's something that authors should consider as well when blurbing their books. Because a lot of people read blurbs of more like the books within the series, especially if it's a spin-off series.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a big reveal, maybe try and avoid putting that on in the blurb of the next book.
It's why sequel books are hard to blurb.
I guess kind of like it also just depends on it depends on what it is to an extent as well. Because big plot twist in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was Quirrell was the bad guy, not Snape. Not relevant to the next story at all. You can easily blurb Chamber of Secrets without revealing the plot twist, and it's fine. But yeah, with these, I mean, it would have been hard to blurb these ones without revealing the plot twist because Robin's a major character and as is Justice in each of their books.
Yeah.
So I don't know what she could have done.
Well, I've seen a lot of blurbs because, with the way that Elder and the Outcast of Asmar go, we're both like, I don't know how the fuck to blurb these books. And I've seen a couple of blurbs that are just like, read this book. It's the next book in the series. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good strategy.
I've read a couple of blurbs where a major character dies in the previous one or a major event happens or something, and it's just either after the loss of someone they hold dear, Peter and Genevieve must do a thing, or after the event of blah, so and so are reeling and trying to scramble together to try and find out how to do a thing. So it alludes to something big happening in the last book, but it doesn't quite tell you what or who. So there's a way to be like, look, last book was kind of intense. You're definitely going to want to read it before this one, but I'm not going to spoil it for you because I'm not a dick either.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil your books.
And I don't know, it's a thing.
Yeah,
it's a thing. But it's a romance book, so I can't really be too upset that the plot twist was revealed early by me reading the blurb of the next book. That was my own fault too.
Yeah, I was like, wait, did I spoil Livescraft in the blurb of Yorda? I did not. It literally just says 1 year later. That's all it says. I checked myself.
Good.
We're good.
We like
I didn't do it bad.
Yeah, try. Writing advice from book club with A. Try and avoid spoilers in your blurbs. make vague references at worst.
Yeah.
And if you can't think of a way to do that, then just be like, yeah, just have the second book in the installment of the blah, great read, and then just like a series of shit. Or join blah as the adventure continues. Like,
I highly recommend reading, if you want to see what that's like, check out the Game of Thrones blurbs, because they're very fucking, they're like, nothing's in them. It's literally just like, this is a book.
How would you even blurb Game like
that's kind of what we were like. We were like, how do we blurb this? Let's look at Game of Thrones. They don't blurb it. Like, that's how. I'll read it to you.
Yeah, like, because you can't blurb it.
Yeah, that's what I really like.
Really, characters die in every Game of Thrones blurb. True.
Yeah, it's just like 6 factions struggle for control of a divided land of the Iron Throne of the 7 Kingdoms. Like, that's it.
Done. You get like that.
Like, it's a tale in which brother plots against brother, and the dead rise to walk in the night.
You kind of have to be
masquerades as an orphan boy. A knight of the mine prepares a poison for a treacherous sorceress, and wild men descend from the mountains of the moon to ravage the countryside. It's just super fucking vague.
Yeah, you can't, like, even that is a bit like, you miss out so much. You can't give just a basic thing. It's just like, look, there's a throne, people want it, they're gonna kill. Plus some zombies.
Well, because, like, Blackwood has so many characters and locations that we were like, I don't know how to blurb this book. Which is why we looked at that and we were like, okay, cool. So don't. That's the advice, is don't do it.
Yeah. Just
anyway.
What is the absolute most basic gist I can give? That's your blurb.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff happens in this book.
Yeah.
Anyway. Read it. This is kind of like why whenever anybody's like, what's your book about? I'm like, so there's a forest cult. And it's kind of sci-fi fantasy, and
it's a thing.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Where do I end? Like, I think it would just be easier if I just read you the book.
Yeah, I'm like, would you like the audiobook, or do you want me to do a dramatic reading? The audiobook is more pleasant than me.
He does have a nice voice.
Anyway. So yeah, so next week, Midnight Sun, or this, it depends. But this is a formal show. So yeah.
I like how we keep trying to, like, occasionally convince ourselves of that.
We have a format. All right. We will see you guys next week.